So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. I'm so excited to introduce my guest for this month, Tootsie Warhol. He's a New York-based artist and activist with a degree in law from University of Virginia and Brooklyn Law School. Tootsie began his career as an attorney and was really deeply engaged in the human rights as an assistant district attorney in Brooklyn DA's Domestic Violence Bureau, where he helped Spanish-speaking female victims of domestic violence from Bushwick and Sunset Park. Tootsie became an artist after his meeting with Donald Trump in 2017, which led to performances as satire of the president, most notably making the biennial great again during the Whitney biennial in 2019, which channels the experience of meeting Donald Trump, as well as all the sorts of things that he has done during his presidency. So without further ado, thank you so much, Tootsie, for taking the time to share your journey with us today.
Thank you, Nina.
So
great to see you.
Yeah, likewise. So so tell us about your journey as an artist. Did you always want to be an artist from the beginning of your life, or how did that come up?
No. It's different. You hear a lot of stories from artists, which is a great thing to hear. When they're little, they said they were always drawing. I drew some, but no, I never thought I would be an artist. But I'm a New Yorker, and I'm the son of an immigrant. My dad came here in 1950 from Baghdad, Iraq, and he was fleeing religious persecution. And immigration is very important to my family's history, because then my dad practiced immigration law for over 40 years. And I really was just an art lover. I have memories of art as far back as kindergarten. In my public school regular kindergarten class, we studied Mondrian and Seurat and Signac, the pointillists, and we went on a field trip to MoMA. Unbelievable public school that I went to here in Westchester, New York, and was really just an art lover. Like you mentioned, I studied history and Spanish at University of Virginia, a double major, and then I got a JD from Brooklyn Law School, and I took some art history classes. They were really some of my favorite classes, but I didn't think to make that a major. And I really used the Spanish major when I was almost exclusively helping Spanish-speaking victims. When I was assistant district attorney in the Brooklyn DA's office, I was helping victims of domestic violence, and they needed people who spoke other languages. So that was a very special and formative experience for me, helping the community and getting involved in protecting women's rights. And I mean, I guess really if I didn't meet with Donald Trump, I don't know that I would be an artist. It was really that formative to my career as an artist. Some people say that Tootsie Warhol was conceived in Trump Tower and then born at the Whitney biennial. That was sort of the life cycle. I had a meeting with Donald Trump the week he became president, the week of his inauguration, to discuss voting rights. I was working with a nonprofit voting rights group, and we went to Trump Tower and sat in his office for an hour. And that face-to-face confrontation made specifically his rhetoric of, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists towards immigrants, which was so hateful and so hurtful to me personally, because I know that we have incredible immigrants here, not only in New York, but all over this country, not the least of which was my father. But that meeting was really formative. And after the meeting, I was on the front page online of the New York Times, and I actually tape recorded the meeting, which I later leaked to Politico and the New York Times. And people started saying, this is crazy. I saw you on the news coming out and shaking hands with Trump. How did that happen and what happened? And I just started doing his voice. And I don't know that I'm particularly good at impersonations, but I do believe that when I met with him, he gave me what I call the beast. When I shook his hand, and Nina's got that beautiful picture right there, I think he put that ability to convey his voice and his character into me. And I just started doing it for fun for people when I was explaining to them what happened in the meeting. Are you still there, Nina? Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. I'm just sharing the
good.
screen, the photos. So I just want to like give people the idea, the inception, how that Tootsie Warhol and that the character started.
Yeah. And I'll never forget the first thing when we walked in, he goes, we didn't even ask him, but his office is filled with memorabilia and sports things and signed things and magazine covers and all kinds of things. And he not so subtly named every Black person he had signed things from, because I went in with Martin Luther King III and some other civil rights leaders. So he goes, you see that boxing glove? Those are Tyson's gloves. Remember Iron Mike, right? And Don King, I know those guys so well. And those are Tiger Woods' golf clubs, right? I mean, I have the best courses. If you want to play golf, you come to the Trump course. And Tiger Woods, he's a great friend of mine. And he's naming Sugar Ray Leonard and his gloves. I mean, and it was hilarious. And so I had just been doing that voice for people just for fun, friends. But it was not until 2 years later, when we were deep into the middle of the Trump administration, that I started playing with that image and other images of me with Trump. And these were my first works that I made in 2019, where I was defacing some of the images of me with Trump just on my iPhone. You know, I really don't have a training in arts, but it doesn't stop me from expressing my creativity. So even though I don't even know at this point how to use Adobe Photoshop, I still needed to do something creative with these great images. And I started doing those, but it was really in the summer of 2019, I had been to the Whitney Biennial 3 times. I love the Whitney. I'm a Whitney Contemporaries member. Are you as well, Nina?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Good one. You should join it. And I have tremendous respect for the director, Adam Weinberg, and for the curators of the Biennial, Jane Panetta and Rujeko Hockley. They have a very, very, very difficult job to curate a biennial. It has to be very diverse. It has to be very inclusive. It has to be cover a lot of topics. And they did a great job. The one thing that I just couldn't believe was that there was next to no work about Donald Trump. And I had noticed the same thing in the 2017 Whitney Biennial. And I toured the whole thing, and I asked one of the fellows there and said, this is a great show, but how come it doesn't make any reference to Donald Trump, who's the president now? And they said, well, the show was planned before he became president, so we didn't know. And I said, all right, I guess that's the way it is. But in 2019, he had been president the whole time. And there were only 2 works out of over 200 works in this show. That's less than 1%, you know, so you get lost in a sea of art there, and it's great art. But for most people, they might not even see one thing that has to do with Donald Trump. And he's a big deal when he was president, you know, he's still a big deal. So after I had been 3 times, a switch just flipped in me, and I had no experience or training in performance. I don't even really think I was in any school play beyond 5th grade. I'm not an actor or anything like that. And I just said, I'm going to do something. And I said, I'm going to paint my face orange and put on this blonde wig and get a too long red tie. And I had to scramble to get everything as soon as I realized that I was so upset that the Whitney was not using the great platform that they have to engage in a conversation with the community about the sitting president. And I said, if they're not going to put Trump in the show, I'm going to put him in the show. And I just showed up there, and I thought they're going to kick me out, but actually I was able to stay in the galleries there for 3 days. I was working full time as a lawyer then. So this was nights and weekends moonlighting, you know, like the head of Goldman Sachs He's a DJ, you know, on nights and weekends. They call him DJ Soul. So this was Tootsie Warhol doing the law during the day. I was working at a law firm, and Donald Trump, satirical impersonator, on the nights and weekends. And by the third day, they kicked me out. But that didn't, deter me. I remained almost every day for 2 months in August and September of 2019 in front of the museum, and I met thousands of people who really enjoyed the performance. Not the least of which was, for example, in the galleries, a woman came up to me with her 9-year-old son, and she goes, "Oh my God, we're from Greenland." And that was the week when Donald Trump thought he could buy Greenland. And so they came up to me. I was being very cautious not to interrupt people who did not seem like they wanted to have some sort of an engagement with me. And they were dying laughing because they, you know, for people who are not from the US, they might think that the president represents the country, so everyone in that country agrees with the president, right? You know, you might distill it. And so they at least could see that I did not appreciate Donald Trump, and that I did not appreciate that he was trying to buy Greenland. And we made a little video and had a great laugh about it. And I guarantee you that that boy, he might not remember one other thing from that experience in the Whitney, because it's a blur. It's a lot of great art. But I'm sure he will remember meeting the president of the United States when he was trying to buy his country and having a great laugh about it with his mother. And those were the kind of real engagements that I was able to have with people about current events that were happening right there. And, you know, unfortunately, the Whitney couldn't manage to provide a platform to have those kind of conversations.
Yeah, you brought a really interesting point in terms of a lot of things. And I think I want to first of all commend you for taking the courage to shift your career path, right? Like first it was like finding your career path as an artist from being a lawyer, because I knew you from just like being a lawyer, like that was your main profession. And then all of a sudden, like 2 years later, you just like, I'm just gonna be an artist and be a character of the most crazy, insanest like president we ever had in history. I mean, that takes a lot of courage because it's and you just said like you had a background in law, but you don't have experience in being a performer or actor. You just like went out there and showed up and in a like a major platform like with the Whitney Biennial, and you could have been kicked out by the guards. Like
I was kicked out.
Right up.
I'm
well,
banned.
Third
I'm
day
banned.
though.
I was worried I'd get arrested.
Right.
But courage, thank you, Nina. And courage is one of the words there, because I just last week, I gave a speech in my Trump character I have a different outfit now. It is the post-presidential golf attire, the Mar-a-Lago look. And to me, I've just written an op-ed and submitted to some newspapers, and it will probably be published in the coming days. But Donald Trump is something that artists should not give up on. I know we're all exhausted, but he's still out there chipping away at the election results. 2/3 of Republicans believe that Joe Biden is not the legitimate president. And so artists should not give up on Donald Trump because he's still out there causing trouble. But just last week, I was giving a performance at the Red Stage, which is in Astor Place right now. If anyone is in New York, it's there through July 4th, and it's all day and evening, a big red stage in Astor Place, Manhattan. And it's by Creative Time, which is a great public art group, and Rashid Johnson, who is one of our best contemporary artists. And I gave a performance there on Friday, and a person came up to the stage and tried to accost me. I had to, stop the speech and get guards to try and protect me because, especially while he was president, Donald Trump is the biggest lightning rod in the country, one of the most controversial people alive, and that has attracted a lot of laughter and a lot of attention for me, but also people who get very upset when they see me. So. Yeah, I appreciate the support.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you brought up another interesting point is like, yeah, like how do you navigate such a controversial, like being a controversial character and a historical figure, right? It's very controversial. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate that controversy and being an artist at the same time? I mean, and what message are you trying to convey through these characters?
Well, what I'm conveying, you know, I take a lot of inspiration from great performance artists like Marina Abramovic. I went to MoMA and witnessed her incredible 2010 performance, The Artist is Present, where she was there every day for a number of months. And that's the kind of, that was very much in my mind when I went to the Whitney, and I said, I knew from day one, as long as they don't arrest me or really kick me off the premises completely, I am not just going one day, that this is something that I need to continue. And I took that type of endurance performance to Times Square. I was in Times Square for 6 weeks leading up to the election every day, with the naked cowboy on some occasions. But I also take inspiration from Pope L, who had an incredible. Did you go on that tour with the MoMA JAs, Stina? Pope L. He's famous for the crawl performances where he crawls along Broadway.
I think I missed that one, unfortunately. Oh. I almost went, but I think something came out, so I was unable to.
It's incredible. And then I saw him do one of his performances in the galleries at MoMA, which is very special as well. And I got to meet him after that. But these are, he uses the streets of New York City most frequently to do his performances, and often about political issues. So I take a lot of inspiration from those people. But really what I've been trying to do all along with the performance is it's based on my meeting with Donald Trump. I think I got to know him differently than most people would if you just saw him on TV or social media. And I want to convey what it was like for me to meet with him to other people who might not have that opportunity, and to bring it face to face, because especially while he was president, some people just tried to tune it out. But it was very important. And that's why I wanted to bring it, face to face.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. I mean, again, it's just like, dealing with such a controversial subjects and the figure, like it's tough, right? Like it's like you're sort of like exposing yourself, like in disguise, like trying to be someone you personally are not, right? Like this is your being in character. So it's really fun.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, people yell at me as if I'm him, love him or hate him. Some people go, I'm gonna vote for you again. And I go, I really don't think you're getting the message. If you think that this orange is a flattering, and I have the tie very long, if you think this is a flattering caricature of the president, then I don't know that they're getting the message. But then I also get people who don't like Trump and think I'm supporting Trump because they didn't take the time to understand what's happening. And they're yelling nasty, terrible things at me. And I'm like, I think we're on the same side. Just give me a break, And even if you're yelling things, I am not Donald Trump. You need to say those things to the president, not to me. But it's been a wild ride. But in terms of the messaging, when he was on Twitter, I never followed him. I would never give him the satisfaction of having one more follower, even little old Tootsie Warhol. But I would check his feed in advance of a performance to see what has been in his mind for the last 24, 48 hours. And it was odd because then there was even a period in 2021 where I checked his failed presidential blog, which was a little bit of his own fake Twitter. And then just last week, I had nothing to check, which was unusual for me. So there's that. But in terms of the messaging, I mean, there is almost no issue that I agree with Donald Trump on, and not the least of which are, I disagree with his rhetoric towards immigrants. I love immigrants. I disagree with his position on guns. I think we need gun safety reform. We continue to have an epidemic of mass shootings, and also I'm very much against his treatment of women. Grab them by the what. That is a despicable thing to do and say, and he has never acknowledged that Black Lives Matter. He said he compared police brutality to missing a golf putt. He said it's like a 3-foot putt. They choke. So particularly in 2020, I was very focused on the messaging of making it clear what his positions are, just in case some people said, I just like him because he was on The Apprentice, or I just like him because he saved me money on taxes. I wanted to make it very explicit that he has these positions which really are not good for the people in this country. And that's why this time last year, I was out at the Black Lives Matter rallies and making small speeches and large speeches. And especially one that I made was in October of last year, when the incredible Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died suddenly. And there was a women's march organized that had not been planned previously, because he had picked Justice Coney Barrett to take her seat, and the smart women in New York knew that this was potentially very bad for women's reproductive rights. So I made a very special speech there in front of a crowd of thousands of screaming women, and they enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, of course, like, I think first impression people get is like, oh my God, like it's like Donald Trump. Like, why is this guy just walking around the costume? I think that might be the first reaction like people would get, especially in New York City. It's very diverse, and people are like we don't support this guy. Like, why is he doing? And I'm sure, like, what are the biggest lessons that you've learned through being in this character for almost a year? And what are the things that you've learned, and what are you trying to convey for the future?
I mean, I've learned so much. You just learn people's opinions. There are many people where they come up to and they just go, "Are you for Trump or against Trump?" And then I'm in the character and I go, "I'm against him very strongly." And then we get into a conversation, and I learned that I met lots of people the month before in Times Square who said they were on the fence about who to vote for. I didn't think that was possible, but we have 331 million people in this country, and there's every kind of person, and that's okay, but I couldn't imagine that somebody wouldn't have already made up their mind. But by what we had seen, I guess in terms of what I want to do going forward, I'm still keeping an eye on Donald Trump until I feel that he's really no longer poses a threat to our democracy or can make a big impact in our politics of this country. But I am turning my eye towards other projects, and I've begun my career as a performance artist. Most people know me well for this satirical Donald Trump performance that I've done, but I will not only be a performance artist. I'll be working in photography and video and sculpture and lots of other things. So my creativity has no bounds, I like to say.
Amazing, amazing. I love that. And just like dialing back a little bit, what was the genesis of the name Tootsie Warhol? I think you told me this in person, but I'd love for you to share with everyone how that name came about.
Sure. Well, I knew that I needed a much better memorable name than my legal name, and I wanted it to be rooted in art history, which I love so much. And I came to the name Tootsie because it's actually on Netflix. You can see it. I knew her before it was on Netflix, but there is a legendary Texas barbecue pitmaster called Tootsie Tominetz, and she is about 85 years old, and she's known as the first lady of barbecue in Texas. And she works full-time as a high school janitor, and then she has a barbecue restaurant which is only open on Saturdays in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and people drive for miles and line up to go to this barbecue. And I had heard her name, and I actually met her in 2019, and I had that incredible barbecue. I made the pilgrimage only months after I had taken the name Tootsie Warhol. That's how special and important it was to me. But I loved her name because it had a real ring to it, but also because she has that grit and determination to do what she's passionate about, which is barbecue, even though she's busy working full time. And that I very much identify with that, because I started my career as an artist when I was busy working full time as a lawyer. But of course, the name only resonates with me because of the Tootsie Roll. I like the musical and the Broadway show, but I mostly like the candy Tootsie. It's a American icon, pop culture icon for over 100 years. And so much of my work deals with appropriation, especially right now. I don't necessarily know how to paint like Frida Kahlo. I don't necessarily know how to sculpt like Michelangelo. So I'm dealing with appropriation and using my creativity to make it my own. And that's really what Andy Warhol is all about. And especially as somebody who, he's also son of immigrants, also very close to his mother. And I was born in New York City, but he really made New York City his home. And really, I was born in the 80s. He really is such a big figure in 80s New York culture as well. So I came to that name Tootsie Warhol, and I love it very much.
I mean, I love, yeah, it goes really well for some reason. Like somehow it goes really hand in hand. Like I love the way you summarize like the whole history, right? Like you could resonate with like Tootsie, like the real person. She's not like a celebrity, but like celebrity in the tech, like the barbecue scene, right? And
She is.
yeah, and you merge that with art history, right? Like Warhol, he's such a multifaceted artist, right? And he has brought in so many, like not only culture, but also like the way he, presented what artists should be, right? Like he's most like entrepreneurial artist that I can imagine, right? He was good at marketing, and he comes from the advertising, but he was really good at marketing and appropriating our culture, like the pop culture, into the fine art world. So no, thank you for sharing that. Like I love the way you summarize the whole history and the characteristics of the people that you met in person as well.
Thank you, Nina.
Yeah. So let's see. So what is the most challenging and rewarding part of being an artist?
I mean, I guess challenging is getting places to show your work. I've been pretty determined, to show my work in the Whitney, around the Whitney, in Times Square. I've been in some shows. I was in Art in Odd Places, which was a performance art festival just last month. And I was acknowledged in ArtNet and AM New York for that. But getting places to show your work, because it's great to do it. It's in the street or wherever you have to, but still so much of the world revolves around galleries showing it. And it's really a challenge, especially for somebody like me who, I didn't work in the art world for 10 years. I didn't go to art school. So it's tricky in terms of rewarding, just engagement with people, especially real engagement with people. I may very well be telling the story of the lady and her son in Greenland 40 or 50 years from now, and watching that video and having a good laugh about it. That was a real engagement between humans. And I appreciate engagement on social media too. Make sure you follow smart.advisory to follow all of the great work that Nina is doing supporting artists. And also follow Tootsie Warhol NY. And I appreciate it when people who live, some in other countries and far and wide, are liking my works and sending me notes and writing comments and engaging with it. So that can be very rewarding as well.
Well, thank you for the shout out. And yeah, please do follow Tootsie Warhol on Instagram and other social media platforms. So as you're like expanding your career as an artist, what was the best advice you received and you wish you had when you were just starting out?
This is a little bit of a tricky question because I'm very open to advice. So if anyone wants to send me tips or suggestions or be a mentor to Tootsie Warhol, I've never had a mentor in my life, but I would like one. And I don't know. I mean, there's definitely been people who've been friendly to me and have been helpful, but I can't remember one piece of advice that I got specifically. I would give advice based on my rudimentary understanding of the art world right now to young artists or people who want to have a career in art, to learn how to do art on a computer, whether it's NFTs or digital art. That's definitely something that's worth exploring right now, but also learn how to do graphic design. I have no idea how to do graphic design right now, but I think that if you want to be a fine artist, that would be a great way to also do commercial work to pay the bills, for using graphic design.
And also transitioning your career yourself, like, do you have any advice in terms of like emerging artists who are transitioning from like the typical day job to like a full-time artist? Do you have any advice on career transitions?
Probably try and get a job in the art world where you can make connections, whether it's at a gallery, maybe a smaller one where you have more responsibilities, or whether it's assisting another artist. But my way of going about it was not necessarily the best way. You can read about it in the daily news if you want, but I had no plan to leave the law firm that I was at, but my former employer fired me when I refused to make illegal straw donations for him to political people. So we still have a dispute that's going on, but it has launched me into art and activism much more than I even thought I would be at this point. So hopefully it's for the best.
Yeah, yeah. Let's say everything sorts out with your settlement with your former employer. Do you still planning on practicing law, or are you just sort of going to be focusing on art?
I would love to do both. But the problem is when you Google Tootsie Warhol, there's been many press articles written about me and they link to my real name. So I don't know if anyone wants to hire a lawyer who looks like that, you know? So you have to have a really open mind. But yes, I have great legal skills. I'm a great lawyer, and I would love to continue practicing law, but I am not at this very moment.
Well, you know, artists do need law. Like, they need to help with laws sometimes in terms of,
yes,
you know, a lot of things, right? Like copyright issues, there's always that, or just legal aspect, like contracts, right? Like when you're working with other entities, like sometimes artists don't even have a contract and then they get in trouble or not getting paid. So I feel like the artists definitely need some help in those realms.
Anyone, if you need free help, I'll try my best. I am not an art lawyer, but I have helped, especially in the pandemic. I sent out a bulletin with some tips to help galleries that were dealing with having their gallery closed by the state for the pandemic and still having to owe rent. So I've helped a number of galleries, even though I did not specifically only do real estate law. A lot of my practice used to involve real estate. So I've tried to support the community in that way. Amazing,
amazing. I really appreciate the offer too. Just like extend your offer to artists who are in the midst of some kind of legal issues or questions. Yes, you know where to go to. So yeah, it's so fascinating to see your career transition at the moment, right? Like career, like a full-time stable like career from a lawyer to an artist. Most people think like, why in the like world like would anyone do that to themselves? But yeah, just like let's just talk about that, like the notion, right? Like the artist, there's always a stigma around like, oh, if you become an artist, I'm gonna be starving, I'm not gonna be making money. But what's your definition of success? Because like a lot of people tend to dwell on like the financial success or like go by their career titles, right? Like that's their definition of success mostly. But what's the definition of success for you? And you know, what does it look like?
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point. I mean, it really is not a great system that we have for fostering the arts, I would say, because being an artist, you know, you're self-employed, you don't have a paid vacation, you're not going to have a paid maternity leave or paternity leave, or you pay your own health insurance. I mean, it is a challenge, especially for emerging artists. So make sure you support great emerging artists, especially women and minorities, people with disabilities, people from the LGBTQIA+ community, and also Tootsie Warhol. But it really is a challenge. Support emerging artists. But your question of how do I define success? I think you alluded to it in America, and I think Andy Warhol could tell you this very frankly. we prize money over everything. That is how America defines success. So I hope to be very commercially successful, selling work in major galleries. And really, for me, it is go big or go home. Not everyone has to define it that way, but I have to have my work in a retrospective at the Guggenheim or the Whitney or the Met or MoMA. And if I don't, then I failed. So it's really high stakes for me. I think a lot of people can be happy with other things, but that's really what I'm shooting for. And I hope that I can achieve that.
Yeah, and that's like really, I mean, that's like really big goal, and then that's definitely achievable. So what actions or plans do you have to get there? Do you have any advice, or in terms of like how
I need the
what you're working
advice.
on?
Please hit me up, Tootsie Warhol. If you have tips and suggestions, I need the advice. I'm I'm in no man's land. But I guess for what I'm doing, I mean, I have relationships with some galleries, form relationships with galleries. They don't really want just cold submissions. So you have to really get to know people there and then try and show your work there. What am I doing? I mean, going forward, I'm not, like I said, I am thankfully with the performance work, I don't feel bound by a white cube or bound that I have to have a gallery show my work to express what I'm trying to do. And what I'm going to be working on next is, well, I may be very well performing some more at the Red Stage. So follow Tootsie Warhol NY, and you can see those performances and catch a notification if I will be doing another one at the Red Stage. But also, they just went on display this week in Chicago, the great Obama portraits, the official presidential portraits of probably my favorite president, Barack Obama, and my favorite First Lady, Michelle Obama. I love them so much. And I love the artists who made them, Amy Sherald and Kehinde Wiley, really some of my favorite artists, especially Kehinde Wiley, who I've known his work much longer. But those paintings, they're going on a national tour. They will be coming to the Brooklyn Museum, which is one of my favorite museums. I went to Brooklyn Law School, not too far away from it, and it was my local museum. And I don't know if your viewers know this, but the Kehinde Wiley painting was made in China. And I love the people of China. I have tremendous respect for them. But I do think that it is unusual that this singularly American and symbolic portrait that has all kinds of symbolism, every flower in the background of Obama symbolizes the state of Illinois, the state of Hawaii, all kinds of things about Obama's history. And it's open for interpretation. And they want you looking at it with a magnifying glass to look at the little symbols that you wouldn't even know what they were. But what does that mean that it was made in China? That somehow we have 331 million great people and many, many, many hundreds of thousands of great artists in this country who could have assisted Kehinde Wiley, but somehow that painting was made abroad. And so I will be doing a performance at the Brooklyn Museum, which probably will take the shape of one of these endurance performances. And I just want to have a conversation with people about where that painting was made, and are we going to make Joe Biden's painting in China or another country, or do you want it made in the US? It's an ongoing conversation, and it's an interesting one to have as Donald Trump contemplates his own legacy, a very dark one, and is now commissioning his own portrait. We look back at presidential legacies, and I was a US history major, and maybe, who knows, maybe even Obama himself would say that was a moment where they let sort of globalization get a little bit too big, that then they even realized to have made that painting in China. So
yeah, that'll be very interesting to see. Yeah, like I think it touches up upon so many layers of like history, right? Like history, portraiture, painting. I love the fact that you brought it up. Like even like that when we study like portraitures of the back history, there's always a symbolism that like might not be relevant in our time, but like the more we study and that's also for future generations too, right? Like down the road, like next 100 years, our next generation is going to see these portraitures and have different conversations. It might be definitely different from what we're having conversation today. So it's so important to have that discussion and educate the future, right? So yeah, no, that's amazing. That was my next question, was like, what's next for you in terms of, you know, your career path and upcoming exhibitions. So
that's pretty much what's next. And stay tuned. I have another big performance and protest planned for late 2021 that has nothing to do with Donald Trump. A true Tootsie Warhol original. I will be assuming a new character, and you'll have to stay tuned to find out. And I will be on Broadway, the great bright lights of Broadway. So you'll have to come see Tootsie Warhol on Broadway. I might not be in the theater, I might be on the street, but I will be on Broadway, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I love that. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear all about it. Or I'm sure I'll hear about it, but I can't wait to see it. Yeah, I love Broadway, so it is gonna be wonderful.
I love Broadway.
Yeah. Any closing remarks or?
I just want to thank everyone if they've stayed with us. You know, please continue to support diverse and emerging artists. Can follow smart.advisory, and Nina's doing great things for artists, and I appreciate that. And follow Tootsie Warhol NY, and you'll have a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much, Tootsie, for taking your time and being here and sharing your stories and journey with us. I mean, it's been challenging, and also showing your courage despite the controversial subjects and the subject matter. Really appreciate it. We look forward to, you know, like following you, and as well as see what you're going to come up with in later 2021. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Talk soon.